Welcome to an extra episode of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm reviewing Christine, a novel by Stephen King. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, at the podcast page. Excuse me. And that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Michael Strange and Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. If you'd like to support my show, you can do that by sharing the show and reviewing it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction, including my most recent release, Salsido Paranormal Experiences. You can also sign up for the Patreon page and get 1 extra episode per week of true paranormal stories from the web whenever possible. You can also just make one-time donations through PayPal. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So this is going to be the last of these extra shows for the week of Halloween. Thank you all for listening, of course, and hope you all enjoy the extra episodes every day. Looking forward to doing more after Halloween as well. So getting back to a regular schedule and regular lineup of shows. But so this novel is, again, it's by Stephen King. It came out in, let's see here. It's published it came out in 1983, and it's a story about a car, a 1958 Plymouth Fury, apparently, that seems to have a mind of its own, possessed by malevolent supernatural forces. So let's see, looking at the plot here, so this is set in the in a part of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a fictional suburb there, known as Libertyville, and it's set in 1978 in the story here, and it's focused on this teenager, Arnie Cunningham, and his friend, Dennis Gilder, and they notice a vehicle that is this Plymouth Fury. They notice it while they're driving, and it's being sold by a man named Roland D. LeBay, who is sort of a grouchy older man, and despite Dennis being nervous about the whole thing, Arnie decides to buy this car, and of course, LeBay refers to this car as Christine, and but anyway, Arnie buys this car and finishes the paperwork, and as he's doing this, Dennis sits inside Christine and has this vision of the car and the surroundings as they existed back when the car was new, 20 years earlier. And this frightens him because apparently he doesn't normally have these kinds of visions. So is this a sensitivity on his part, or is it something from the car itself that he's picking up on, or that is sending it to him? So so he gets out and he decides right away he doesn't like this car, and he doesn't like Christine, as it's called. So Arnie goes. It takes Christine, and again, I'm going to keep on using the name because it's what it is in the story, and it sort of does give you an idea of what might happen, and just a little bit of a hint, or a little bit. I don't know. Just it's neat to do that, I think, because that's what the book does the whole time, just about, and that's I think it fits. So Arnie takes Christine to a do-it-yourself garage, and they what Arnie doesn't know is, of course, the owner of this garage, who is name is Darnell, last name is Darnell. It's suspected that Darnell uses the garage as a front for criminal operations, but Arnie doesn't really have any interest in that. But as he's trying to fix this vehicle, he stops wearing his glasses, his reading glasses, and he starts noticing that his complexion is getting clear. But he also notices that he becomes more withdrawn and humorless and more cynical. So his personality is changing after he acquires this car. And after the original owner, LeBay, passes away, Dennis meets his younger brother, George. So LeBay's younger brother. What was his first name? I forget now. But let's see. Okay, so Roland. So George is the Roland's brother, and George mentions that the he basically gives a history of the his brother. I forgot his name again. Let me see, Roland. There we go. You'd think I remember it, considering I just finished reading the first Dark Tower book again. But says that Roland has a history of anger and violence, and this has led to the death of Roland's wife and daughter in different ways. So Dennis notices that Arnie is taking on many of Roland's personality traits, this older man's personality traits, and has started dressing differently as well. Basically, just everything about Arnie is changing to become more and more like what Roland was. And so it looks like also, in addition to all this, Arnie is starting to get interested in Darnell, this garage owner's operations, his criminal operations, and is working for Darnell, and to use the money to pay for finishing the restoration process of Christine. And Arnie starts dating this another student in his school named Lee Cabell, and his parents force him to keep Arnie's parents force Arnie to keep Christine in an airport parking lot. And soon after that, a bully, his name is Clarence Buddy Rippington, blames Arnie for his expulsion from school. And he learns where Christine is at, the car is at. And this bully vandalizes the car with help from his gang. So Arnie, who through all his time working on the car, has discovered, of course, that Christine has also been repairing herself, as he's been helping to do that. And basically, he's been helping, but also the car has been helping itself repair. So at this point, after this happens, Arnie pushes the car back through the garage, Darnell's garage, until enough of the damage is undone for her to be able to run again. And then he drives through the junkyard until she's fully restored. So he's giving Christine time to repair herself. And he strains his back in the process and starts wearing a back brace, just as Roland LeBay did. So meanwhile, Lee notices that Christine's dashboard lights seem to become glaring green eyes, watching her while she's in the car with Arnie. And that really, so let's see here. I missed a spot here, I think. So, let's see here. So yeah, there's all these events that are going on around the car and in the car that are getting to be more and more suspicious and dangerous for people that ride with Arnie in the car. Again, never directly anything aimed at him, but always the people around him that start to get suspicious about what the car is and how it's doing what it's doing. So, again, there's several, after this, there's several unexplained or unexplainable car-related deaths that happen around town. The victims include Darnell, which is the owner of that garage, Buddy, who was that bully that damaged the car in the first place, and all but one of his accomplices, all but one of his gang. And the police managed to link Christine to all these murders, but there's no evidence that is found in the car, of course, because it repairs itself. Meanwhile, Rudy Jenkins, who's a detective with the police, becomes suspicious of Arnie despite his airtight alibis. Arnie is not always in the car. And it turns out it's very true. He's not always in the car. And when these deaths happen, he's not in the vehicle itself. Even though, again, he is acting more and more like the previous owner, he's never actually in the car in a lot of those cases. Meanwhile, Christine, which is possessed by Roland LeBay's spirit, is committing these murders independently and then repairing the car. So at this point, Lee and this girl from school that Arnie met starts talking again with Dennis, and they are trying to figure out what's going on as well. And of course, this leads to a relationship between them. So Dennis wonders if Roland sacrificed himself and his wife and daughter before that to make Christine a receptacle for his spirit, for himself to be in it. And they are noticing all these changes in Arnie's personality and posture and dress, the way he dresses, and all these things that start to be very similar to the way that Roland LeBay was. So at this point, Arnie stumbles onto what's going on between Lee and Dennis in Dennis's car, and it sends him into a rage. Soon after, of course, this detective, Jenkins, is killed in the car crash. And so Dennis and Lee are aware of all these things that are going on. And they figure the only way to stop all this is to somehow destroy the car. So while Arnie is visiting a college, these two, Dennis and Lee, lure Christine to the garage, and they basically try to crush the car, and they Dennis ends up seeing Roland LeBay's spirit trying to make Dennis, stop to stop Christine from being crushed to the point where it can't regenerate itself. And but they're able to destroy it. Meanwhile, Arnie and his mother, while out in this going to a college to visit a college, Arnie and his mother were both killed in a highway accident, where which is also while Christine had also earlier killed Arnie's father. So it's in the end, it's this terrible string of murders, all because of the spirit that is connected to this vehicle and also to the current owner of this vehicle. So anyway, this the story goes on here. There are witness accounts that make Dennis think that Roland LeBay, his spirit, was tied to Arnie through Christine. And so, but then Roland fled the car and attempted to repossess Arnie. But Arnie fought back and to a point where it was a draw. Nothing happened. But this distraction and this battle is what caused the wreck that killed Arnie and his mother. So the book ends here with 4 years later. Dennis and Lee are breaking up, and they've broken up. And Dennis reads about a car accident in L.A. where a drive-in movie theater employee, who was the last surviving member of this bully's gang, the ones that nearly destroyed Christine in the first place, where this guy was killed by a car that somehow smashed through a cinder block wall. And Dennis wonders if Christine may have rebuilt itself and is setting out to kill everyone who stood against her, and is saving him, Dennis, for last. So that is the book, but it really is done well. It's all about spirits and machines and possible connections between those different things. But yeah, it's really a wild book. Looking at the chat here, a lot of great comments here in the chat here from. It's nice to see everyone there. And Jen Arcana, Arcane Observer, says Christine is scary. I'm afraid of cars. I'll admit it, but I'm on a bike or foot quite a lot. Arnie is so sus. This is more common than most would think. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's. I mean, there's already so many reports, and I mean, we've talked about this before in the shows. Reports of devices being inhabited or activated or manipulated by unseen forces, by supposedly by spirits, by ghosts, or by whatever, any kind of being out there that is just made up out of energy and consciousness that figures out how to manipulate whatever devices it wants to. And usually this is often seen with the radios in vehicles or music players like MP3 players or whatever. I've heard of that. Of course, computers, home computers, in some cases, cell phones also being manipulated. And it just makes me wonder, too, as more and more people, as the time goes on, and more people that are from, let's say, even this time period right now, that are very familiar with technology, as they eventually pass away over the course of a natural life, they will be more and more familiar with how these devices work when they're alive. And so it makes me wonder if we are going to, over time, over decades maybe even, we're going to see more and more interaction between consciousness and machines, and consciousness being from either people that have passed on, or who knows. But yeah, let me see here. Yeah, factory machinery malfunction in the chat there with terrible timing. Yeah, so I don't know. It seems like it's just people that have been around now for the last 10, 20 years. Once they eventually pass away, they're going to know, in general, how to use the internet, how to access emails, how to access. I mean, there's already reports of people who, I forget now. It was a story I shared a little while back. Someone made a post online. It was one of my true paranormal stories from the web shows, where this person's mother had just recently passed. And classical music was very important to her. And so I'm guessing here that she was older. But somehow, she had passed, after her funeral, this person was sitting in their home, and their computer, which had been asleep, just on sleep mode or whatever, it started playing classical music. And they went over and checked it out because they were amazed that it was playing classical music when it was asleep. And they hadn't even activated it, turned it on in a couple of days. And when they got back to the desktop and they got the thing on and everything, the computer had somehow gone to one of the popular streaming, TV streaming or video streaming apps on their PC, and had started on its own the trailer for a movie about, I forget if it was Mozart or someone else, but about classical music. And so somehow it appeared as though the mother had manipulated this computer to start playing music that they were fond of, as a sign possibly of, I'm here and it's okay. And this is just so you know, it was me. And so that's with someone that maybe, who knows how old they were, but if they were any older than, 20 or 30 or 40 years, then the technology, they would be familiar with it, but also, yeah, I don't know. It's just really odd how all that works, and how there are so many reports similar to that, of seemingly messages from people that have passed on. So, yeah, in the chat there, Jen says, 30 years now this has been prevalent. Yeah. So anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.